The origin of paella started in Valencia, Spain. Many cultures influenced the emergence of this dish. Two cultures in particular are important to note. First is the Roman Empire that occupied the Iberian Peninsula in 206 BC that lasted 700 years. The Romans introduced the pan, which is what the dish is named after. So la paella is the pan. And they also introduced irrigation to the country. And from the 5th century to the 11th century is when the Arabs occupied the Iberian Peninsula. And they introduced rice. Also, I've seen some debate on whether the Arabic word bakia, meaning leftovers, is what paella is named after. But there is some debate on that, and it's not really clear where the name comes from, but I thought that was an interesting note to make. The traditions for paella come from very humble beginnings. It started as being farmers and farm laborers' food, where the dish was composed of ingredients that were at hand, around the rice field and the countryside. Ingredients included tomatoes, onions, snails, ducks, rabbits, etc. And it's important to note that Valencia is one of the largest natural ports in the Mediterranean Sea and the most important rice-producing areas in Spain. And I wanted to provide more information on the pan, la paella, which is literally the translation of each other. And the pan is made of carbon steel. It has a round, flat bottom. Width can vary from 12 inches to several feet. And as the Spanish say, the height is about the first joint in the thumb is deep. And that is consistent for all of the pans, no matter how large. And as you can see on the bottom left photo, there are dimples in the pan, and those serve many functions. For one, it traps small amounts of liquid and promotes even cooking. And most importantly, it helps foster a very important aspect of the dish, the socarrat. And here's an overview of the 4 main components for the ingredients. So first we have the rice, the sofrito, the broth, and the socarrat. The most popular rice used for paella is called bomba rice, and it is a small, round, medium-sized grain that absorbs flavors and stock very well. And it also retains its shape, so it doesn't become mushy. It kind of just stays round and fluffy, and it also forms a really nice crust at the bottom of the pan, which I'll go over in a future slide. So the sofrito, and this is really the first component of the dish that is started with. It is the first step that you do when you are making paella. So sofrito translates to a stir fry, and it consists of meats, vegetables, and olive oil, the mix of spices, and that's all stir fried in the pan. This dish is really kind of a one-pan dish, so everything is cooked in the pan. Nothing is made separate and added to the pan. It's all there. So the meats used for the dish are traditionally with Valencia paella is chicken, duck, and rabbit. You kind of stray away from the traditional when you start mixing seafood. I'll go over that in a future slide. But yeah, more traditionally it is chicken, rabbit, duck. And for vegetables, again, I'm sticking to traditional here, it is called verdura, which is similar to green beans, and also tomatoes, which are grated. The green beans you could see in the top photo, and the grated tomatoes are pretty clear in the bottom photo. the only spices used for the sofrito is really just Spanish paprika. Um, Also very commonly known for paella is saffron, but that is added to the broth, which I will be talking about in the next slide. And the broth is prepared by just adding water, saffron, garafon, and snails. And like I mentioned, the dish is really just a one pot meal. Everything is made in the same pot. Nothing is made separate. The broth is a very simple preparation, um, but it is very key to keep the ingredients simple so that you taste every aspect of the traditional ingredients without adding too many seasonings. As you could see, there's not a lot of seasonings in this dish. It's really simple, um, but that is just the traditional way of making it. I think as soon as you start adding more seasonings and spices, it really strays away from being traditional Valencian paella. And also, I've seen some deliberation on how the rice is poured into the broth, and whether there are traditions to how to pour it. But I think as long as it's evenly poured into the broth, then you're solid. Now here is undoubtedly one of the most disputed parts by the Valencian spoon, and that is the socarrat. And that is the delicious crust that sticks to the bottom of the pan. It's sort of that fine line of being extra toasty but not being burnt. Um, I've seen some recipes that mention, it's forming the socarrat when you hear sort of a crackle noise coming from the pan. Um, but really, I believe it takes lots of experience of making the dish to really perfect that socarrat. And now time for el reposado, which is the rest. So the dish is eaten family style, straight out of the pan with a wooden spoon, and it's typically eaten on special occasions like weddings, birthdays, Easter, Christmas, and a special festival that originated in Valencia called Las Fallas or Las Falles. And that is a festival where everything is burned at the end of the series of days. I'm not sure where it originates from, but I know it is a very popular festival in Valencia, and I've seen photos of this festival, and many people on the street with an open flame making paella, serving it to friends and family, and it's a very important dish to Valencia. So of course it's going to be incorporated into a very special festival. But more traditionally, people in Valencia will only cook it on weekends and will eat it for lunch. And now I wanted to mention two deviations of Valencian paella, one of which is this paella de marisco, which translates to seafood paella, and this pretty much replaces the meat and snails with seafood. It originated by Valencian fishermen who would use seafood instead of land meat. And this dish in particular really widespread throughout the entire country due to popularity, and it is one of the reasons why Spain is known for paella and how it's become sort of a national dish, and it really became globally popular due to just it being very tasty and delicious. And as you can see, we could even find these in our American grocery stores, like Trader Joe's has this seafood paella, which is just prepared in a frozen bag, and it's pretty tasty. I've tried it myself, and one day I would love to try traditional Valencian paella. But for now, I guess this is what I will have to settle with. And the second very important deviation of Valencian paella is this paella mixta, which is mixed paella. And it is pretty much just the combination of seafood and meat from land animals, all combined into this. And sometimes you could even find Spanish chorizo in the dish, but I will mention that Valencia will not claim this as paella. To them, this is considered arroz con cosas, which translates to rice with things. They would not call this paella, but it's popular in regions outside of Valencia, and it was developed in the 20th century by the Spaniards living outside of Valencia. And this preparation is referred to as barroca, which kind of translates to baroque, and they kind of just claim that. A lot of recipes you'll see that this is the preparation that they're going for. They understand that this is not really considered paella to Valencians, so they will often refer to this as like preparación barroca. And finally, I wanted to mention this restaurant called Casa Carmela, which has been around in Valencia since 1922, so over 100 years. And they practice very traditional cuisine in terms of paella. They serve it very traditionally, where it's eaten straight out of the pan. And they just give you wooden spoons to each of the guests, and the pan is just placed in the center of the table, and you just dig in like that. It started by providing service to tourists from Madrid visiting the Mediterranean back in 1922, and it's now developed into being a very popular restaurant in Valencia. I believe it's gained a Michelin star this year. So it's a pretty big deal, and I hope one day I could visit and try this authentic paella. And I've listed the website here if you want to check it out. And that's about it. And here are my references. A notable mention to this YouTube video that is listed at the bottom of my reference list, by a vlogger named Mark Weens. He did a really awesome tour of Valencia, Spain, where he showed how paella is made and how you eat it, and just overall giving a general view of Spanish hospitality, which is really awesome, and I feel like I learned a lot from that video. And it was really entertaining. If you guys want to check it out, I definitely recommend it. And maybe that'll increase your curiosity on Spanish if this presentation didn't already. Thank you.